Hello, welcome to Wisdom in the Night. This is a show for you to get the kind of wisdom you may have really been asking for. What have you been going through? This tonight is going to teach you how to lead people in a great way, but it's going to teach you something else. Our guest tonight has come from Flatbush in Brooklyn up to dealing with the elite, the famous, the wealthy, and helping them. You know, you have uppers that need help. You have other people that need help. Everybody needs help. And this woman tonight is going to be very special. Her name is Tiffany Whitford. I met her at an interesting situation. Tell us how we met.
Well, we actually have a mutual friend, Lynette Lewis, and she was teaching at a women's conference, and I was the guest speaker at that very first conference. And you walked down the aisle, and I just fell in love with you. You were so beautifully dressed and beaming from ear to ear, and I was like, I've got to know this woman. I've got to be friends with her. And so you're stuck with me now, sister.
I know, baby doll. I'm telling you, I know it. And let me tell you what I thought about you. I thought, this is the funniest woman I've been around in a long time. She needs to be a stand-up comic, right?
That's right.
So tell us about your life. There's people really interested in this.
So I grew up in Flatbush, Brooklyn, from a Scotch-Irish-English background. My neighborhood was Marine Park. Very tight-knit community, a lot of people the same. It was pretty much the same, a lot of Irish and some Italian. And it was one of those environments where they considered us middle class. Now I'm realizing we're really almost lower middle class. Both my mother and my father came from very large families. My mother was the first person in her family actually to graduate college and go on to have a master's degree. My father was an investment banker. And unfortunately, my father was a very intense person. He was an extreme, violent alcoholic. He was also physically and emotionally abusive as well. He pretty much terrified my brother and I most of our life. We grew up Catholic. I went to an all parochial school and then went on to all-girls parochial school in Brooklyn as well, and then moved on and went to FIT here in Manhattan.
So what got you to go to FIT? Were you always interested in fashion? What?
Yeah, you know, my great-grandmother lived on the Upper West Side, and she was a model, her and her sister. They were the Mahoney sisters. And what ended up happening was she had the most beautiful apartment on the Upper West Side, and she was so pristine, Betty, and she looked so gorgeous, and she was the epitome of a lady. And when I would sleep over her house, I used to go through her closet and go through all her things, try on her stole Martins and her furs and her jewelry. And she really taught me what it was like to be a lady and to keep a really good apartment, keep my dresser right, my closet right. And I was enthralled by her. She was the most glamorous person that I knew. So I think my love from fashion stemmed from there.
And then you went to FIT. Did you major in anything specially?
Yeah, actually, I got my lower, so in FIT you go for 2 years and then you reapply for upper division. And I got my lower division degree in fashion buying and merchandising. And then I did something at FIT at the time in the 80s that nobody had ever done before, is I went into fine art for my upper division. So I got my bachelor's in fine art, but I got my lower division in business.
But why would you get anything in fine art if you were into fashion?
I think, you know, I've always been a very artistic person, and I love the arts, and I love to be around artistic, creative people. I'm really drawn to people that are unique, the odd man out, the oddball.
Are you saying that's why you love me so much?
Probably. I mean, birds of a feather, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and what'd you do after that? You went into the what? What kind of field?
You know, while I was in college, I was working in the beauty industry. I worked for Estee Lauder, and then from there I worked at Chanel, and I worked for a lot of different beauty companies, and I had worked my whole entire life. So I got my first part-time job when I was 13 years old. I worked in a flea market, and I came home and told my mother I had a job, and she was like, what do you need a job for? And I basically said, I want clothes. And my mother said, you got clothes. And I said, I want an upgrade. I want really nice things. And so I've worked my whole life. And as soon as I was 18 years old, I got a job at Macy's. And so I worked my way while I was in college. And I always liked to have money in my pocket. I always liked to be able to treat people to things. I loved beautiful things, and I loved to be surrounded by beautiful things. So it was really important for me to not only look well, but to make others look well as well.
So you're in high-end fashion, and your career's going higher and higher, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't give up.
No, that's not my nature. I mean, anybody that's from Brooklyn knows you never give up. That's just
Right.
not who you are. We're tenacious.
That's exactly right. Well, now, you happen to have a very strong relationship with the Lord. I know that about you.
Yes.
How did you get that?
You know, I joke around kicking and screaming, but really, truly, I have a very unique, I think I have a very unique relationship with Jesus. But I got there in a very unique way, and my husband got there in a very unique way as well. Because I grew up in that environment where my father was so violent, the only real strong male figure I had in my life was my older brother. My older brother and I have been tight since we're very young. And, you know, I grew up in an environment wanting love for men and really wanting to be adored and to be cherished. And when I was younger, I got a lot of the attention from men, but it really was the wrong kind. And I got myself into a lot of really difficult situations where I was heartbroken or misunderstood because I was also, like I explained before, a little bit odd, a little bit different. I had a love for fashion, for art, for things that were unique. And so there was this combination of not really being understood. Because my mother raised us as Catholic, and I went to parochial school, grammar school, and high school, I was surrounded by nuns. Both my aunts on my father's side were nuns. And it was always a very romantic thing for me to be around such really religious people. But I never understood how I could get there, how I can get that peace. And it really caused me, Betty, to be suicidal for most of my life. And when you're raised Catholic, you're taught that if you commit suicide, it is like mortal sin, one-way ticket to HE double hockey sticks. And I knew I was already living a personal hell. I didn't want to end up in hell. So I think I got to the point where I was about 26 years of age. I was dating a much older man, and the relationship didn't work out, and I was heartbroken once again. And I was bawling my eyes out. My brother had gotten married to this wonderful woman that I'm really close to now. She's like a sister to me. And I was just having a moment where I was really at a low point, Betty. And I thought, I'm really going to do it this time. I'm going to kill myself. Wow. And at that exact moment, the phone rang, and it was my sister-in-law. And I was just like unbearable. I mean, the expletives were flying. I was going off on her. And I just said, I'm done. I hate my life. I'm unhappy. I'm sad. I feel like, I remember telling her that I felt like I was 80 years old at the age of 26. I was exhausted. And I said, I'm going to kill myself. And her response was, that's good. I think you should kill yourself. And I was like, what? You know, like,
wait a minute.
And she said, I think you can ask God to kill your old life and give you a new one. And being a little bit, of a sarcastic person, I very obnoxiously said, oh, is that what it means to be born again? And she said, yes, it does. And she said, can I pray for you right now? And so she prayed with me over the phone. I got to tell you, I don't even remember what she said. But I did hear God's voice that time in my life. And I remember what he said to me. As I was bawling my eyes out, I remember I opened my eyes and there was a puddle on the floor of tears, literally a giant puddle. And I heard Jesus say to me, as many tears as you see on that floor that you've cried, multiply that by the highest number in your head. That's how much I've been weeping for you.
Good night.
Yeah.
How did you hear that? Inside yourself?
I didn't hear it audibly out loud.
No.
I heard it speaking inside. Mm-hmm. And I just was like, uh-oh, I'm in for a ride. Like, this is pretty serious stuff. And then, several days after that, I was plagued with horrible nightmares, really just horrible thoughts in my head, demonic thoughts, really, really bad. And I remember also I had a dream. And I had a dream that I went outside my apartment, everybody was gone. And I remember in my dream, I was like crying and thinking, okay, God, you said you would never leave me. You've left me. You've abandoned me. I can't believe this. And I went back into my apartment, and God walked through the door and said, don't you know I saved the best for last? And then I woke up. And I knew at that moment, like, this is no joke. Like, this is it. And I prayed that he would never leave me. I said, I know my nature. I am rebellious. I am awful. I am hideous. I'm going to let you down. I'm going to sin like crazy. You saved me now, but I'm not going to be pure. I know myself. And God said, I am with you. I know exactly who you are. I will never leave you. And Betty, he never has.
Through all of that, through what you're talking about.
Yep. Through all of that and then some. And probably for everything I'm about to do in the future, really, if you think about it.
Because
you really don't live a perfect life.
That. A true friend is like that. They don't ever leave. It doesn't matter what you do. And in fact, sometimes your worst days are the times they love you the most. Have you ever noticed that?
Yes.
You love them more or something. It's crazy, but you do. So, all right, explain from that situation, what was God's destiny for your life? How did you find that? And what kind of challenges have you encountered?
You know, the thing is like, you get a relationship with God, and it's not like your life instantly becomes perfect. It's the opposite. You actually undergo like a lot of surgery and changes in your life, and it's really, really difficult. And I think, you know, it's no joke that you're asking me that at 48 years of age, because I couldn't answer that to you probably even last year, maybe, or the year before, because I always felt like my destiny was changing and my calling was changing. But I absolutely know that my destiny is leading people and helping people get to where they need to be. And that's in every aspect of their life, but more so, it happens a lot in business, because the business that I'm in can be really cutthroat and can be pretty competitive. And when you're the kind of person that shows kindness in an environment that's really difficult, people notice that.
What do people say about you? I know you're their boss. I know you have to take difficult situations, because as long as I've known you, you keep being put into places that maybe other people wouldn't even want to go, wouldn't even want the job. And you go in and turn the whole thing around, and they're all happy and performing at the highest level from what you told me. Is that right?
Yeah.
How do you do that? What is that?
You know, I think I've done so much in my life. I've made so many mistakes that I'm so quick to not judge others. I'm not saying all the time, right? We're judgmental people, but I'm saying I can really look at the situation 360 now. And I think I'm really good at leading others to see that point of view as well. And I always tell them, you know, there's like 6 sides to every story. There's yours, mine, the truth, and then 5 other people's version of it. And I think you really have to sift through that. And I think you have to identify the behaviors that drive the results and really help people get there. And basically sometimes it's having tough conversations and just saying, look, you know, you're not performing. This is not working out. This is what I need you to change immediately. And you'd be surprised when you're really direct with people, but you're gentle at the same time, and you let them know that maybe they're not performing or they're not doing well. But then you also provide a solution as you're giving them that feedback. People generally want to do well, and they want to change, and they want to be better. You just have to give them that guidance.
All right, so you were telling me the other day of an example where people in a work situation had always done things the same way, always, and for them to grow, for the company to grow, it would have to change. And what would be your method of going in and getting people who are established, don't want to change, set in their ways? How would you go in there and change that?
I think the first thing you have to do is, I'm a big talker, but I kind of just shut up and observe and really listen. I think it's very important to listen. And the power of pause is so amazing.
Give an example. What are you talking about?
So I think there's so many times where I'm in a situation where I have the answer like 10 seconds in, but it's going to take 20 minutes for them to get all the information out. And what I've learned is if you jump 10 seconds in and give them the solution to the problem, you're missing out on those 22, 23 minutes of actually other information that's beneficial. And so even though I want to give them the answer, because time is money, right? This is New York City, and you want to get through the conversation really quickly. When you stop and you listen, one, they feel respected, they feel valued. But the second piece of that information is you get so much more knowledge from what they're telling you. There are moments, Betty, where there is silence that is so awkward, and I'll just sit there and listen. Sometimes my response is, I hear you. Tell me more about that. And then there's another layer that gets evolved, and then another layer, and then another layer. And then before you know it, you have so much information to change a situation just by listening to somebody. And they really, really appreciate it.
They respect you, don't they? Because you do listen to them, right?
Yeah, I think they do. I think they respect me. I know, you ask me what people think of me. They'll say that I am really intense and that I have a strong personality, but they'll tell me that they've never had a better leader. I have pushed people to the brink at times, and I think in the past that's like a junior move. Now I'm able to not do that to people. I can see in their body gestures, in their eyes, that they've had enough for the day, and I take a step back, sometimes for a week, 2 weeks. If it's a heavy coaching moment, I take a step back. And I actually say to them, listen, I know I've been coaching you on this for a really long time. I think you've had enough. I'm going to let you now roll this out and really let you have your own aha moment and your own discoveries to be successful.
So would you say that not only do they respect you in the sense that you're their boss, but you're giving them the wisdom or the right way to handle something? Would you say also that somehow you're able to communicate to people, I care about you. I'm being tough on you because I care about you. It's not just about the job succeeding. I want you to succeed. Would you say that's it?
Absolutely, because I think I lead every conversation with, I want us to get past this. What do you think it's going to take to get past it? And sometimes they say, Tiff, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk through it. And I think in the past, Betty, I really gave people a lot of answers. And there are moments where you have to give them answers, that they're exhausted, they're spent, and they just want you to come in and save the day. And there's moments where you have to do that. But I think the only way that they'll evolve and be able to stand on their own 2 feet and really develop as leaders is to actually just ask questions and have them come up with the solutions themselves. Sometimes the questions are pointed so that you can get the kind of reaction from them, and then they have their little aha moment. But I always follow up even if they've had large movement or small movement, I always follow up with an encouragement, with celebrating success, with telling them that they're doing a good job. I really pay close attention to the details, because I think when you're developing people and you're trying to move them to make the right decisions, and it's really them changing a lot about their personality. They could have bad habits for 10, 15 years.
Right, and so there needs to be someone to come in their life, even if they're stuck where they are and they don't know why they're stuck, somebody to come in and help them define it, think through it themselves, and come up with their own solution, right?
Yes.
That's what you're saying?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. What kind of wisdom have you gotten out of being in this field of helping people like this in high fashion?
Sure.
How?
Everybody's broken. It doesn't matter how perfect anybody looks on the outside. They are usually a mess on the inside, and you'd be surprised. The people that look like they're the messiest aren't. They're actually in process. And the people that look so perfect are truly lost and afraid. They live in fear. They live in fear of making bad decisions. They live in fear of being found out. And if you can champion somebody in that moment to help them be successful without letting any of those fears out of the bag for them, even when they confide in you, you are their most trusted friend.
So that's great to be like that, but we're talking about a woman that at one point was so suicidal, there was a puddle of water on the floor. Mm-hmm. What kind of wisdom has Tiffany gotten for Tiffany at this stage in your life?
I think all the wisdom that I have is based on all my mistakes.
Mine too.
I mean, the more I fail, the smarter I get. And so many times people are like, oh my gosh, you're so smart. How did I not see that? I'm like, I did it wrong 50,000 times first. Mm-hmm. And believe me, sometimes I get it in 2 or 3 shots, and sometimes it takes me a lot longer. I think the biggest wisdom that I've taken away is to love myself, to be good to myself, to accept people for where they're at. You cannot force people to be in a different place until they're ready. And to give guidance and to be patient, and to love people at every phase that they're at in their personal life, in their career, and be slow to judge and quick to encourage.
Would you say that your relationship with Jesus and how he said, I'll never leave you, I'll never forsake you, would you say that by really learning to walk in that and understand that, would you say that has been a major factor in helping you help other people?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're unconditionally loved, that gives you the ability to love other people unconditionally. Mm-hmm. I think if you're a mess, it allows you to love messy people. Mm-hmm. If you're not judged, it allows you to not judge others.
And if you've made big mistakes, it enables you to forgive people who've made big mistakes.
Totally.
I've learned that. Yeah.
Totally.
All right, we got one more exciting thing we want to talk about. When I met you, you had never been married, and you wanted to be married, and you were 47 years old, and you kept saying to me, Betty, there's a man coming. I know it. I've waited a long time. And I'd say, well, who? How? What? I don't know. I don't know where he's coming from, but I know he's coming. I can feel it inside me. I think God is telling me a man is coming. Get ready. What's the story?
So it's the most amazing story, I think, in the history of stories. I married my childhood friend from Brooklyn. Michael grew up in Gravesend in a really tough neighborhood, predominantly Italian. We met each other when we were 13 years old. I had a shaved head, I had a mohawk. I got a little taste of punk rock. I had a big mouth, he said. He said I looked like a crazy baby chick running through the neighborhood. He accused me of always wearing my clothes too tight. I mean, his story and perception of me is so hilarious. But Michael and I were childhood friends. I mean, 100% Sicilian, second generation. And he was gorgeous. I mean, he was the neighborhood Lothario. And I wasn't attracted to him. I really liked guys that had like a chipped tooth or a scar. And he was a real pretty boy. So I was like, yeah, he's not for me. But we were best friends. And he really loved me and looked out for me. You know, it was crazy in the 80s growing up in Brooklyn. We did a lot of drugs. We got on the subway. We used to go to the Fun House in Studio 54, and we did crazy things. And he always looked out for me, and he was the one of the few men that never laid a hand on me. He never tried to make a move on me. And so, believe it or not, he found me on Facebook, and
But had you seen him? Had you had any contact?
So we didn't see each other for 27 years. And then he was looking for me for 7 years. And I didn't go on Facebook until I connected with some cousins I hadn't seen in a while. And I was like, I hate social media. And they're like, please stay on it. We want to stay in contact. And then all of a sudden, Michael showed up. And
like, what, did he instant message you?
Yeah, he instant messaged me. I had no idea what that was. I remember I was in a store and I heard this little noise, like a bloop. And I was like, what is that? Who's got their phone back here? It was during holiday. It was November. And then one of the managers came over and was like, it's your phone. And I was like, it's not my phone, that's not my ring. And they're like, can I see your phone? And they showed me. And I was like, what is that? And they're like, somebody IM'd you. I was like, I don't even know what that is. And so they hid it, and I looked at it, and I didn't have my glasses on. I was like, I don't know who this is. So then, literally 30 days later, he did it again. And I was like, who is this? And so I clicked on the little face.
What did he say on it? If he messaged you?
He's a typical Brooklyn guy. He was like, I think the first thing he said to me was like, could it be you? Is this truly you? And I was like, I don't know who this is. Oh, no, this is what he said. Yeah, you should probably contact me. And I was like, I don't know who this dude is. And then I guess I posted something on Facebook and I never responded to him. So the second one was like, really? With all question marks. Are you kidding me? And I was like, who is this? And I clicked on the little face and I saw that it said Mike Deej. And I was like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe it. So I immediately texted him, gave him my phone number. I was like, don't give my number to anybody, da-da-da-da-da. And we spoke on the phone. And it's just so funny when you hear somebody's voice that you know from your childhood and they sound exactly the same. And he was living out in the West Coast. Which was funny because he said, I'm surprised you recognize my voice. I sound West Coast. Betty, he sounds as Brooklyn as they come. And that first night we talked on the phone, he basically said, and I love this because this is a typical Brooklyn thing. He said, are you ready for the storm? And I said, oh, is it going to snow tomorrow? And he said, no, the Michael DeGennaro storm. It's coming for you. Are you ready for it? And I was like, oh, please. Is this guy really? This is the line he's got? But when we hung up, I texted him and said, I'm so glad to have my best friend back in my life. Oh my gosh, we had such great times. And then he called me and he said, we're not friends. And I thought, what did I do? I said, you don't want to be my friend? And he said, you're not my friend, you're my wife. I've come back, I'm gonna marry you. And I literally was like, yeah, right. And we hung up and I kid you not. I was like, there is a bullseye and it's coming for me. I knew in that moment
that it was gonna happen.
Yeah, and then we talked on the phone for a really long period of time. And then when we met, I remember I was doing the dishes in my apartment and I was praying and I said, God, really, this is not what I asked for. Like a guy from Brooklyn, totally tattooed, lived a wild life. Like, this is what you're giving me? I did not ask for this. And the Holy Spirit said, he is nothing you asked for, but he is everything you need. And so
he has been, Tiffany.
Yeah. Yeah,
for a year now, I've heard the wonderful stories of this guy loving you, adoring you, anything, I mean, just everything you said, Betty, I want somebody who will love me.
Yeah.
I just want to be loved. I want the right guy to love me. I want it to be right. I want to be adored.
Yeah.
And you got it, Tiffany?
I know.
And you've been married a year?
I know, yes.
I wish we had time to go into all your stories of your actual wedding day, which is a hoot.
Eloping.
The anniversary, first year anniversary, how you're under the table in a restaurant because a fight broke out. I just think it's great. But I've just loved this. I knew you'd be great.
Thank you.
And I want to talk to you that are watching this show. You don't have to be perfect to have God in your life. You don't even have to have never made mistakes. You can have made huge mistakes, just made them. But I want to tell you what Tiffany said. Jesus said to her, I'm going to be here. I'm going to always be here. And she has the most wonderful relationship with him. And you could have that. You could have that. All you have to do is say, I want it too. I want what that chick has. I like it. I want the freedom, the joy, the laughter. You just say, Jesus, I want you. Come in my life. Talk to me. Teach me. Here I am. I'm jumping off for you. Bye. Come back again.